Hey folks, Tricky Bee here. Today I'm going to talk about how I built a piece pipe style pipe from some blocks of wood. I started out, I bought some hard maple. This is 2x2 stock. It was originally 30 inches long. Completely hosed up this part, so that part got thrown away. But I did mark this off in 2.5-inch segments and chop some 2.5-inch almost cubes. They're 2x2 by 2.5. These are going to make the bowl. The bowl is going to be one piece. The pipe is going to be another. So you can replace the bowl if it ever burns through, which it eventually will if you use it enough. Because I used up most of my hard maple with a problem that didn't work. You see, I originally tried to drill through this with a regular old 12-inch drill. And like most drills, it decided it would follow the pattern of the grain. And so instead of going straight through to the bowl, it came out the bottom. So that ruined that entire block of wood. It was the last block of wood my local place had in stock of that size with hard maple. So I ended up switching to a hunk of soft maple. This was a 2x6 by 18-inch piece of wood. I cut 2 slices off of here that I created the pipe out of. I did 2 slices because my plan was, instead of trying to drill through the middle of a piece of wood with a drill that was inevitably going to deflect, because it's not a gun drill, this was just a regular old spiral cut drill, I decided instead I would cut 2 slices, use a router with an 1/8-inch round over or an 1/8-inch round cut bit to cut a channel from the end, to about there on both sides. Then glue those 2 guys together, drill through one of them to make a hole. And that's what I ended up doing. It ended up working pretty well. So we're going to make the bowl from this, and then I'll show you how I made the pipe from this. Some of it I have on video, some of it's just still photos. I wasn't really set up for my videos when I started this, so we get videos partway through. It worked out pretty well. I'm very happy with it. So let's see how it went. Well, my design here is not particularly authentic. I started out doing a little research on the types of tools Native Americans originally used to make peace pipes. It turns out that the first thing you got to do is get yourself a sharp 1340 VS precision machine lathe. If you aren't as concerned with the authenticity of your tooling, you can use a regular wood lathe or maybe even carve out the bowl tenon by hand. It just so happens that I have a friend with a machine shop, so I used that. You just have to learn to make do with the materials available to you. We're going to drill the air bore out to 1/8 of an inch in diameter. It's pretty cool how the wood spins and the drill stays stationary in a machine lathe. Okay, the dimensions for our tenon are going to be 1/1000th of an inch wider than 3/4 of an inch in diameter, so we get a nice tight fit in a 3/4 inch hole, and we are making it about 0.3 inches long. Time to bore the tobacco chamber. It's going to be a 3/4 inch wide bore and about 1.5 inches deep into this block of wood using a nice round over tip drill bit. All right, now here I have ripped 2 1-inch slabs from my 2x8 by 18 block of wood. One of these is going to be the top of the pipe and one will be the bottom of the pipe. I'm going to set up my router table with a 1/8 inch radius round nose cutting bit, and I'm going to set the rip fence on the router table at 1 inch so that it goes right down the center of the board. That I'm going to cut for 15 inches from one end of the board down 15 inches and not all the way through because I don't want the air hole to go all the way through. That way, when I flip the 2 over together, I'll get a nice 1/4 inch diameter hole down the middle as though I bored it with a drill, but it will be straight. Now on one of the boards right at the end of the 15-inch route, we're going to drill through with a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. This is going to be the mortise into which the tenon of the bowl fits. Now what we've got is 2 boards that are grooved, and then this one I've punched a hole through, drilled a hole through with a Forstner bit. That's going to go right on here. These guys are going to line up, and that's going to go in there, and it's going to end right at the end of the route that's in the bottom one. Now these you can see, I didn't quite get it exactly centered, so that one, I ran them both the same way. I probably should have run one way and one the other. But it's not far off, so I'll just scooch it over a tiny little bit. Because this is all going to be carved down to make the pipe anyway, no one will notice that the sides don't line up. So I'll line them up in there, and I'll look down in the hole and line them up here and clamp them together. I ran a little sander over this just to get the saw arcs out of it. I don't want to do too much. I don't have a fancy table sander that lets me sand this so that they perfectly mate together. So I wanted to not spend much time with a little sander like that on it. And then what you see is you're going to have a pipe. This will be the pipe. And then this guy, which we made in the fancy lathe, this guy fits right in here. It's just a press fit. And he'll probably go, like that. I'll put him crooked. I'm going to carve that down into something else. So next step is to glue together the pipe portion. This doesn't get glued on. This remains removable because this will eventually burn through and you'll have to replace it. You want to keep this part forever. So I'll glue these 2 pieces together, clamp those. Those got to stay clamped for 30 minutes. And they have to be not stressed for 24 hours. So we'll see what that means. So the glue is now dried overnight. Not 24 hours yet, but I'm not going to try to stress that joint. I'm looking at this. Came out pretty well. See, that end worked out nicely. I actually, last night, I took a plane and I tried to plane this down by hand because it was night, people were asleep, and I felt like doing stuff. It's got pretty good draw. Let me put the bowl. The bowl fits in here pretty nicely. Just sort of like that. A little bit of resistance. I might have to bore the little air hole out of the bowl. It's an 1/8 inch now. I may have to go bigger. This is more like a 1/4 inch because I'm using an 1/8 inch radius, which is a 1/4 inch diameter. I'm thinking this is too big now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the table saw. We're 2 inches square here now, roughly square. And I'm going to take a 1/4 inch off of each side. So when we're done, we'll be 1 1/4 inch square. Or excuse me, 1 1/2 inch square. Okay, it's much more manageable now. I'm going to have to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with this spot right here where the hole is. Because I'm probably going to have to leave that flat like this. It's a little bit at an angle, if you can see, unfortunately. I cut this one without making a flat side first. This is just sort of a rookie mistake. It's a little higher on this side than on this side. But it'll be okay. I'll clean that up. I'll just use a circular sander there, which is designed for making right angles. And I'll clean that up. And then I'm going to probably start, this will be good. It's pretty good here. I'll just work on this here to make it roundish until I get it roundish. And then I'll start getting out circle templates and that sort of thing. Yeah, sometimes it's better to just go with a little hand tool. I'm having a good time doing this with the plane. The bandsaw is just kind of really the junky one. Probably need to change that belt. Changing the belt's virtually impossible on this modern bandsaw. So I'm just sort of working this until my arms get tired, and then I'll go back to the motor for a while. It's kind of starting to take some shape. I think what I'm going to do is leave it a little more flared out right here around the bowl. Just so happens that's the length from the table of my tabletop bandsaw to the tip right there. Works out right below the bowl. So I think I'll let it thicken out right there by the bowl, or by the bowl connection, right? Because remember, that's going to go on there. Carve that and everything. And then I'll taper it down again at this end. I have to get all the red off of there. But you can see it doesn't look too bad. There's a seam there, right? But it's not that noticeable. A little bit here. Once I get it all sanded down and everything, and stained, I'm going to leather wrap it if I can find some leather, and put some beads and feathers on it. But it's slowly starting to take shape. It's going to take a long time to make this into a circle. I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of that. Starting to get round. It's got a nice taper up to here. That's because with the plane, it's really hard to start in the middle and get it even all the way up. But that's kind of what I wanted anyway. So I'm just going to run it through the sander real quick and see how far I am from the final shape. It's a little bigger than I want, but my hand is getting tired. This hand, which was holding the square edge, it was really digging in. I had to put a glove on for that. But, you know, I'm taking off a tremendous amount of wood. There's a big pile on the floor there. So hopefully the sander will make it back. Just using a little V cutter here, cutting along the seam. Done this side already. A little groove there. Excuse me. I'm going to paint it, and that's going to make the seam kind of look like it's decoration as opposed to being a seam. Hopefully it works. You got to take your time with this. There's a tendency to want to follow the grain rather than to follow the seam. So you got to just start it a little bit at a time. Not try to, get a whole foot of it off at once. Come back and make it deeper once you've got it cut down the seam on the first pass. Probably going to cut my hand off. I have a little line here that you can barely see. That's the line where I'm stopping. Go back the other way. Alright, so moved ahead a little bit. I carved a couple of little decorative flutes in there. I carved a ring around here. I'm going to leave this place unstained because this goes in your mouth. There's no stain there. be staying on this part. I've also spent a good deal of time on this. Probably should have shown you how I did this, but yeah, I didn't care that much. So it started out as a block of wood with a tenon on the bottom, right, like this. What I did first is I used a little angle, and I drew, an angle that intersected the corner, but left some overlap on the bottom, right? It didn't come all the way to the edge of the tenon. So I did that, and then I used the little 1-inch belt sander. This is one of my favorite tools for making pipes. The little 1-inch belt sander, and I just went along and sanded each of the corners down, or each of the sides down, until it was flat. And then, where's the thing? When I fit it in here, I wanted it kind of diamond pattern, and I realized, oh, it's overhanging the sides quite a bit, right? It was coming straight down here and here. So I came in and I cut those two sides off to kind of come close to here. I left the front and the back. You can see the front and the back go straight up and down. Hopefully I'm on screen. The front and the back go straight up and down. And I've left those, so just a little bit here. Here, you can put it either way. Works either way. Doesn't really matter. Looks a little bit better this way because it's slightly longer here. I'm going to bring that side in a little bit so it works either way. And then I've just spent some time with the 1-inch belt sander. You do something called slack belt. I learned this on Forged in Fire, of course, because everything I know about a 1-inch belt sander I learned on Forged in Fire. This one's about a 1/20th the size, the one they have. But if you use the belt up here, down here there's a metal plate that keeps you nice and straight, which is great for making straight lines and things. If you want to make curves, you use this top part here where it's a little loose, and the belt will kind of wrap around your stuff and it'll make much more gentle curves. So really, that's pretty much it for the shaping. And now what has to happen is all the finish sanding. So it's sanded at 120. That belt there is 120, 120 grit. And that's pretty good grit for shaping stuff without going too far. I have two different woods here. This is a hard maple, and this is a soft maple. The hard maple is a little more expensive, and I had planned to make the whole thing on a hard maple, but this part didn't work the first time. It went really badly. I have it over there. We'll talk about that some other time. And so I went back and I ended up buying a block of soft maple, which was cheaper and bigger, and it's a heck of a lot easier to work with. So you really want the part that holds the fire, to be some sort of really hard wood that's not going to burn up quickly. The rest of it can be whatever you want. So I just made the whole thing out of maple. Feels like something that maybe a peace pipe would have been made out of in the Northeast. I don't know. I don't know if they had peace pipes in the Northeast. This isn't a terribly authentic looking one. But now I'm just going to spend the next probably 4 or 5 hours hand sanding it, and then we'll come back for the finishing. Next day. So what happened last night is I did the staining after I finished sanded it. So what I've got here, I've used a black craft paint, just a regular old acrylic craft paint, and I've filled in little grooves, and then I've sanded off the surface because it gets a little bit over the side. It looks a little wobbly, but that's mainly because my grooves aren't cut straight. I hand cut those. I used a red burgundy, let's see, Fiebing's burgundy leather dye. When you're doing pipes, you usually use leather dye. And I did this little crease here. I tried not to get much stain. I spread it a little bit with a little bit of alcohol just to give a touch of color right here. If you can see, it kind of is a little red and then it fades out. I don't want any stain up by your mouth. And then down this end, I've done this end in red also. And then I've got, let's see, a saddle tan. This is a pro dye. It just happened that that's the stock. That's what they had in stock of the color I wanted. So this is this saddle tan. It's a little bit lighter. Brown. Let's see if I get a better light. You can see the contrasting color there. This bled a little bit more here than I wanted it to. And now we're going to head over to the buffing machine. Got it set up over there. I'll set you on the tripod. And I don't really know how well this particular wood buffs out. I've got hard maple, that should buff fine. The soft maple, I don't know. I've never buffed it. I've only ever done briar before. So we're going to find out together. I'm going to start out with this spot. You never want to put your finger in this hole. I'll probably do it by accident. In case the thing catches it, it'll snap your finger. That's what I've read. So I'm using a white diamond compound. This side here says white diamond. The reason it's brown isn't that I'm using the ruby compound. It's that it takes off some of the stain when you do it. I've buffed a bunch, 4 or 5 other pipes on this. Well, it's starting to shine up a little. It's pretty dull there. Shinier here. You can really see that I didn't spend as much time sanding this as I normally would. But it's a piece pipe. It's not supposed to be super refined. Nice. It buffed up really well. Very happy with it. You see the color contrast, I think, pops a lot more now that it's just buffed. This is just buffed. Right, we still have to wax it next. A bunch of coats of automotive grade carnauba wax. It doesn't look too bad. You don't really see the seam. I don't know if that focuses. You don't really see the seam there much. Of course, that hides it pretty well. See a little bit of it on this side. Alright, now we switch to the other buffing wheel. You never want to use wax on the same wheel that you did your buffing compound, because you just contaminate the two. So now we're switching over to a wax wheel that I only use for wax. And I get a bar of carnauba wax. Got this on Amazon. Starting to shine. Needs 4 or 5 coats of this. I'll just keep going. About the buffer here. This is just a cheap buffer from Harbor Freight, Central Machinery buffer. Works really well. You know, some stuff from Harbor Freight is fantastic. I'm using one of these loose wheels, right? You see, it's not sewed. It's sewed once around the middle, and then all of the flaps are separate. I'm using that for the wax side, and I always label it with Sharpie because you don't want to get these mixed up. Because once you get polishing compound on your wax one, then you're going to be waxing. I got white diamond here because I actually have the red ruby one, which I forget what it's called. This one is the kind that's sewed at regular intervals, which means you don't get anywhere near as much flex on this. I do this because the polishing, you know, it's a little more aggressive. You want to take off a little more material, smooth it down quite a bit more. And then here I just want the wax to flow freely all over. Does it make a huge difference? Have I tried it with the other wheels the other way around or anything? I really haven't. It just came with these two different kinds, so I decided to do it this way. So now the thing's all polished, or excuse me, it's all waxed now. Fit it together. There you go. There's the piece pipe. The next step is to smoke it. I'm a little concerned that, you know, we've got an air bore that's straight down the bottom. Normally you try to bring it off to the side so tobacco doesn't go in there when you plug it up. I bought some pipe screens at Amazon, which apparently are popular with the herb smoking crowd. I've never used any in any pipes I've ever had. I only make tobacco pipes. But I'll drop a screen down in there, try to keep the tobacco out of the air hole, because if this plugs up all the time, that'll be a pain. All right, I'll let you know how it smokes. All right, now I'm set up to try out the piece pipe. I'm using, let's see, what is this? Cornell and Deal After Hours Flake. I've had this once before. Now, with any new pipe, you're only supposed to fill it up a quarter of the way first. Some number of smokes. I'd have to look it up. There's a lot of you know, folklore in pipes. I think it's like 3 smokes at a quarter, 3 smokes at a half, 3 smokes at 3/4, and then you're good to go. But you want to build up a char on the inside of that. I don't really know. I just do what I'm told. You know, I Google it. I put a screen in there. You can see that. There's a screen in there. It's a titanium screen. They're supposed to last super long if you're a weed smoker. So let's see. It's a little windy, so I may not be able to light this right here in the open. It's not too bad. It's way down there. It's hard to light when it's only a quarter full. Let's see how we're doing. It should work. See how the wind holds up here. Oh, wind is blowing just as I try to light. I have to turn the flame up a little bit. And maybe move somewhere where it's not windy all the damn time. Alright, I have to go in some shade. Pause. No, it draws quite well. I was a little concerned that that air hole at the bottom of the chamber would be too narrow, given the long length of this, but seems to work just right. The screen is keeping it from being plugged up so far. It's only been 30 seconds. Nice long wide bore. I think if this whole length was 1/8 of an inch, there'd be too much resistance. But the fact that this is a 1/4 inch, there's just 1/8 of an inch right here. That's pretty good. It's a cool smoke like you'd expect from a long, you know, maybe church warden style pipe. I'm thinking this is a good deal. hadn't really planned on this, but leaving this part here square, which I did mainly because my belt sander only reached here, but also because I couldn't quite figure out how to marry this to this if this was round. And I didn't want to leave just a flat spot on the top. It's nice because you can, set it down. It doesn't roll away. I've become lately sort of a big advocate of the kind of pipes they call sitters, which are ones you can sit down without a fancy ashtray that holds them. The round ones are nice, you can hold them in the bottom of your hand, but most of the time it's hanging in your teeth or sitting on the table, so I don't really see the need to have one that perfectly fits the bottom of your hand, so that it'd be comfortable for 2 hours. I've read online that if you smoke maple, the first few smokes it's going to taste like maple syrup. That was totally a lie. That's nice. Smokes well. I'm pretty pleased with this. There's a few things I'd do differently next time, I think. I think I'd make this narrower. I'd start out, instead of with 1.5 inches, maybe 1.25 inches or 1 inch. Work down from there. Tremendous amount of time scraping this down with a planer to get it down. And even then, I really only got it tapered at this end. Gluing it, cutting it in half, and routing out the center channel, that turned out to be pretty darn easy. Wasn't difficult. It worked. Just had to be careful on the router. Probably next time I would, route one of them this way and then turn it around, the other piece around, and route it that way, so I wouldn't have that alignment problem at the beginning. Or if you run them both this way, and then you try to stack them on together, it's not because you're flipping one over. If you're not perfectly centered, when you flip it over, it's going to move left or right relative to the other one. Should probably get some, Native American style decorations for this. I was going to do that today, but I decided to watch football and smoke the pipe instead. Football starts in just a few minutes. All right, that's pipe number 6, the peace pipe. Thanks for watching.